Fortunately, we've got more scammers out there to talk about. This is a topic that doesn't seem to ever exhaust itself, but we sure wish it would. Our conversation with Dr. Alex Del Carmen is brought to you this morning by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. He's in Fort Worth, Texas, where they're getting up to 55 today. Lucky guy. Dr. Del Carmen, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you with us here today in Fort Worth as we talk about the latest, and it seems like there's one coming down the pike every single day. This is a QR code that the FBI is warning us about, some sort of scam involving that?
That's right. So a couple of weeks ago, the FBI came out with a news release where they're basically warning the public to be careful next time they use their cell phone to scan a QR code. Essentially what happens is when you scan the QR code, it'll take you to a menu or it'll take you to, say, park for a parking spot somewhere. The bad guys, what they're doing is they're using it to redirect the QR code to a website that is not legitimate, and then they'll steal all the information that you represent on the website, such as your mailing information, your Social Security information, your credit card information, and whatnot. So FBI is telling us to be careful next time we use it.
It is one of those things that I don't guess we'll ever get used to, the fact that these folks who are doing these types of things, these scammers, they're really, really smart, and they have ways to figure things out and to prey on victims, and we're always going to have to be vigilant, aren't we?
That's exactly right. And the more technology that comes out and the more we think our lives are being made, a lot more efficient, the more we criminologists become concerned about the fact that, bad guys are going to use that to exploit those individuals that may be in a hurry at the time that they enter their information, may not notice that the website is illegitimate, or in some other cases, they're just voluntarily going to give up a lot of their personal information without knowing that the bad guys are going to use it against them.
We get that, and we had a couple of more crime reports over the weekend of scams. And you said something there that I thought was pretty important, and that is when we're in a hurry is when we tend to make mistakes.
Exactly. So imagine somebody, going to park in the middle of downtown, Indianapolis or, Philadelphia, and all of a sudden they park there, and there's a little sticker on the parking meter that says, scan your QR code here and pay for the next, 60 minutes of parking. And so most of us will not even pay attention to what we're scanning. And on our way to wherever it is that we're going, walking somewhere, fast-paced, in a hurry, late to a meeting, we're going to enter all that information on the phone. And before you know it, somebody in a foreign country, 5,000 miles away from you, is using that information. By the time you get out of your meeting and you get back in your car, they've actually spent half of your savings on some sort of a scam circle where they're redirecting that product to overseas somewhere.
When we think about the people who are pulling off scams of this nature, are they generally highly organized and massive groups? Or are they smaller groups? Are they individuals? Or is it all of those?
Yeah, so it's all of the above, right? So what we know is some of them are part of organized groups overseas. Some of them are just individuals that have the talent and the malice to be able to do this, and so they're solo practitioners, so to speak. But, and they're not necessarily all in a foreign country, right? So some of them are domestically in the United States doing that, and they simply redirect it to 4 different sites. So it's very hard for the FBI and others to be able to catch them. By the time we get to them, they've moved on somewhere else.
Has technology given us a great ability to make our lives more convenient, but at the same time, has it outpaced our ability to really remain secure?
There's no question. And, oftentimes whenever we see a new gadget or a new, technological advantage that comes out on TV, I along with my colleagues in criminology, worry because we know that the law is going to be slow in catching on, and law enforcement not going to have necessarily the technology or the personnel in order to be able to address those issues that are soon going to come about where sadly people are going to suffer as a result of that.
Well, that being the case, what are some things that we can do?
So I think first of all is next time you use a QR code, pay attention to where it's taking you. In some cases, make sure that the website that you're going to is in fact legitimate. How you would know that is, say you want to go to Amazon.com and it's taking you to a host site that is 192.53, whatever, that doesn't make any sense, I would immediately abandon that URL or that web address and try to rethink where you're going in terms of your web design. Secondly, I would also look for things that stand out. Sometimes you'll get an email that says, "Hey, scan the following QR code, and we'll give you more information about this product." Well, when you're looking for that information, they'll ask you for where you were born, your social security number, things that don't necessarily match or will correspond to what it is that you're looking for. So just be smart and take your time and pause and think about why that entity would want that information given the search that you're trying to seek.
And in this case, you pointed out earlier that with this QR code thing, is so much of what you do with the QR code is going to be tied to your finances and to your ability to pay out of your bank account or some other online type of account or payment method. And so it becomes particularly difficult to find yourself in a secure position, doesn't it?
Exactly, and you don't have the ability. Sometimes the QR codes, they'll tell you to download, for instance, an app. And so people go to the QR code, they'll download the app, and then the app, all it's meant to do is once you activate it, is going to sweep all your personal information and send it to a third party. So the FBI tells us to go to places that we trust, such as the Apple Store and various other legitimate sources. Whenever you download an app, don't just necessarily download it because the QR code says to do so.
We're talking with Dr. Alex Del Carmen. He's a crime prevention specialist and expert. So when we think about what's going to be happening take us 2 years down the road, 3, 5 years down the road, do we ever get to the point where there is some sort of agency or common procedure that we take that we know is going to be secure? And just look into the crystal ball for me and tell me what it's going to be like, this environment in 5 years. Is it worse? Is it better?
Yeah, I think there's going to be job security for law enforcement in the next 5 to 6 years, because I really don't see this in any. And in fact, I would argue that the problems are going to get more complex. We're going to have to hire people that are even more specialized than what they are now. And as technology advances, and it will, right? I don't think we have the ability of predicting what 10 years from now is going to look like from a technological perspective. But what we do know is that the challenges will remain and perhaps even get bigger and larger for law enforcement.
Does it change the way in the future that we are using and thinking about financial things? Do we go back in time a little bit and have more physical money on hand, actual physical dollars?
Yeah, in some ways, I think we do. A lot of folks that are, in the business of protecting the national interest of our country, they'll be the first to tell you that the safest thing to use is a landline instead of a cell phone, that, they don't use the internet. They just simply hand out a memo to the person next to them, because anytime you use a keyboard and anytime you use the internet and you're tapped into something or somewhere, you are going to always expose yourself that your security and your information is going to be compromised. And so going back to the basics sometimes, although it sounds primitive to a lot of the young technologically advanced people, I'm sure, that are listening to your interview right now, I will tell you that the old ways are not necessarily bad ways when it comes to protecting our interest.
I guess you would be the perfect person to talk to as well about the idea of new types of currency, NFTs, and cryptocurrency. I can see that can be very problematic for people who aren't really, really well versed in it.
That's exactly right. And even people that think that they may be, right? So just because you're good at the stock market, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at necessarily investing the money that you make from the stock market. So to that end, I think that sometimes we have people that are into the cryptocurrency movement right now, don't necessarily have an opinion about that, except from a security standpoint. I would say that it is a nightmare, because by a click of a button, at some point, 5-10 years from now, you may have someone in a foreign country that may be able to, wipe out your entire savings, your investment, and your, 401k in a matter of one stroke of a key. I don't know that I trust the system to be able to protect me, and I don't know that I would want to be that vulnerable.
Oh, for those old-fashioned days, there was the story over the weekend of that guy in Arizona that worked for Home Depot and was in charge of depositing their money. And what he did was he bought fake money off of Amazon that actually said play money on it, and he substituted that for what he was supposed to be depositing. How about $400,000 worth? Good old-fashioned criminals. They're so much easier to catch, aren't they?
Sometimes, but sometimes, they're also the ones that are, making it so simple that we forgot those simple, basic investigative techniques because we're now dealing with cyber and remote area components that they remind us oftentimes that we need to continue to pay attention to them.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Where are we going to learn more about you and about what you do?
So you can go to the Tarleton website, tarleton.edu, and look me up under criminology. Happy to always interact with your audience and talk to you as well.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, sir. Be well.
Have a wonderful day. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160